Hello there, welcome to the channel. Today's video is Lessons in Frugality from the American Great Depression, how the great people of that time weathered one of the US's greatest storms. The American Great Depression spanned from 1929 to the late 1930s, and it remains one of the most pivotal events in modern history. It was a time of widespread economic hardship, mass unemployment, social upheaval. It saw some little children, dressed like paupers, homeless, starving in the streets. Amidst this awful despair, communities would rally together, find resilience and resourcefulness, and learn to survive with such limited means. They fostered a culture of frugality that holds valuable lessons for all of us in today's world. What was the American Great Depression? The Great Depression was triggered by the stock market crash of 1929, but its causes were deep-rooted in the economic policies and practices of the time. Banks failed, businesses collapsed, and millions of people lost their jobs. The unemployment rate soared to unprecedented levels, reaching a peak of 25%. The Great Depression was a severe and prolonged economic downturn that occurred during the 1930s, primarily affecting the United States, but it went on to spread globally. It was marked by a sharp decline in industrial production, widespread unemployment, and a severe contraction of international trade. The Great Depression is considered one of the most challenging economic crises in modern history, and its impacts had profound social and political consequences. There is a collective of reasons why the Great Depression occurred. First, we had the stock market crash of 1929, the trigger for the Great Depression. October 29th, 1929, known as Black Tuesday, was the day the New York Stock Exchange experienced a massive sell-off, leading to a collapse in stock prices. This event shattered investor confidence and had a cascading effect on the broader economy. As a result of this stock market crash, many banks faced substantial losses because they heavily invested in stocks. Banking also suffered a lack of effective regulations, which led to more bank failures. The loss of savings for many Americans further exacerbated the economic turmoil. The US economy was also interconnected with the global economy through trade and financial relationships. The Depression's impact was not confined to the United States, and it spread to other countries, contributing to a worldwide economic downturn. There was a reduction in consumer spending. The economic boom of the 1920s was characterized by high consumer spending and easy credit. However, after the crash, consumers lost confidence and spending dramatically declined. Businesses, anticipating reduced demand, began cutting production and laying off workers, creating a vicious cycle of no spending, no work, no spending, no work. A severe drought known as the Dust Bowl struck the Great Plains in the 1930s, leading to widespread agricultural failure. The combination of poor agricultural practices and adverse weather conditions resulted in soil erosion and devastated farming communities, the backbone of America. The government's policy responses was insufficient to address the crisis. The Federal Reserve's monetary policy was criticised for not preventing the banking collapse, and fiscal measures were limited. Some protectionist trade policies, such as the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, exacerbated the global economic downturn by restricting international trade. What was the social impact of the Great Depression? Unemployment skyrocketed, and many people lost their homes. Shanty towns known as Hoovervilles emerged. Families struggled to put food on the table, and malnutrition became a widespread issue. The psychological toll on individuals and communities was immense. The Great Depression had profound social and personal impacts on individuals, families, and communities across the United States and beyond. These effects reverberated through every aspect of society, reshaping livelihoods, relationships, and the fabric of daily life. One of the most immediate and devastating consequences of the Great Depression was the mass unemployment. Millions of people lost their jobs as businesses closed. The loss of income plunged countless families into poverty, threatening their ability to afford the basic necessities of food, shelter, and healthcare. With the widespread unemployment and poverty, many families were unable to pay their rent or mortgage, leading to a surge in homelessness and housing instability. The Hoovervilles sprung up in cities across the country, offering shelter to the homeless in makeshift dwellings constructed from scrap materials. Families often crowded into cramped living spaces or doubled up with relatives to save on housing costs. The economic hardship of the Great Depression took a toll on public health and nutrition. Malnutrition and hunger was widespread as many families struggled to afford adequate food. Government relief programs such as soup kitchens and bread lines provided essential food assistance to those in need, but not everybody got it, and access to those nutritious meals remained a challenge for millions. The stress and strain of the Great Depression strained family relationships and dynamics. Financial worries and uncertainty about the future led to increased tension and conflict within household. Some families were torn apart as breadwinners left in search for work, even moving to different states. The economic upheaval of the Great Depression prompted mass migration as people sought opportunities elsewhere. Some families even abandoned their homes and travelled in search of work, leading to large-scale internal migration. Others left the country altogether, emigrating in search of better prospects abroad. The Great Depression sparked widespread social unrest and activism as people mobilised to demand relief and reform. Labour unions organised strikes and protests to advocate for better wages and working conditions, while grassroots movements emerged to address the need of the unemployed and the destitute. These social movements laid the groundwork for significant policy changes and social reforms in the years that followed. What was the government response? President Franklin D. Roosevelt, elected in 1932, implemented a series of bold reforms and programs known as the New Deal to address the economic crisis. The New Deal included initiatives such as Social Security, the Civilian Conservation Corps, and the Works Progress Administration, which aimed to provide relief, recovery, and reform. While the New Deal played a role in stabilising the economy and providing the relief, it was ultimately the mass industrial mobilisation during World War II in the 1940s that helped fully lift the United States out of the Great Depression. How people lived and survived life during the Great Depression was marked by austerity and severe hardship. Families struggled to make ends meet and often relied on meagre resources and community support networks to survive. Basic necessities such as food, shelter, and clothing became luxuries for many. Severe frugality became a way of life. Resources were scarce and incomes dwindled, and people became adept at stretching every dollar and making the most of what they had. This meant adopting a mindset of thriftiness and finding creative ways to minimise waste and maximise utility. Meals were simple, inexpensive, and made from whatever basic ingredients people could get their hands on. Bean soup was a staple during the Great Depression due to the affordability and nutritional value. Meals based around potatoes, as they were another inexpensive and versatile ingredient. Families made dishes such as mashed potatoes, potato pancakes, and potato soup to stretch their small budgets. And pasta with a tomato or vegetable sauce was also popular. They were filling, inexpensive, and could be made with basic pantry ingredients. Vegetables, porridge, and eggs were a relatively inexpensive source of protein during the Great Depression and were vital to the survival of the nation. Instead of discarding worn-out clothing or household items, mending and reusing was the name of the game. People learned how to mend and repair to extend the lifespan of anything they had. Sewing machines became invaluable tools as families patched up clothing and linens, ensuring that nothing went to waste. Buttons were salvaged, holes were darned, and garments were repurposed into new creations. Children often went without footwear, Shoes were expensive and required by the main workers of the household to ensure the house at least got some money or some food in. In the spirit of resourcefulness, people found innovative ways to repurpose materials and items that would otherwise have been thrown away. Old newspapers were used for everything from insulation to wrapping paper. Empty tin cans were transformed into makeshift containers or repurposed into household goods. Nothing was considered disposable, it just wasn't a term used. Everything had potential reuse value. Waste was seen as a luxury during the Great Depression, and people were mindful of conserving resources wherever possible. Leftovers would be repurposed into new meals, scraps composted for fertiliser, even water was used sparingly. Every item was carefully rationed and utilised to ensure nothing went to waste. In communities, the Great Depression fostered a spirit of solidarity and compassion as neighbours looked out for one another, sharing food, childminding, and even homes on occasion. Soup kitchens and breadlines became lifelines for the unemployed and the destitute, providing free or low-cost meals to those unable to afford food. Mutual aid networks sprang up in the communities across the country, with neighbours getting together to share resources and support. It could have been sharing surplus produce from backyard gardens or offering temporary housing to families in need. These networks exemplified the power of collective actions in time of crisis. People came together. Urban and rural households could not afford or rely on grocery shops to have in store what they required, so they started embracing the principles of self-reliance, cultivating gardens, raising livestock, and finding ways to reduce their dependency on outside resources. Vacant lots, backyards, and rooftops were turned into small gardens to supplement diets with fresh fruits and vegetables. In addition to gardening, many families kept small livestock such as chickens, rabbits, and goats to produce eggs, meat, and milk. These animals provided a valuable source of protein and nutrients, reducing grocery bills and ensuring a sustainable diet. Bartering and trading also became a common practice as people sought to exchange goods and services without the need for cash, whether it was trading surplus produce for other essentials or exchanging skills and labour with neighbours. Bartering allowed people to meet their needs through mutual cooperation and resourcefulness. Innovation thrived amongst the hardships of the Great Depression as people devised ingenious ways to cope with scarcity and adversity. From homemade toys to DIY home repairs, creativity became a valuable asset in navigating the challenges of everyday life. Shop-bought toys was out of reach for so many families, so it came about more homemade toys. Children would find joy in simple homemade creations crafted from scraps of materials and household items. Dolls were made from fabric scraps, and toy cars were fashioned from discarded wood and metal. These homemade toys not only provided entertainment, but also fostered creativity and resourcefulness. With professional services too costly, people also turned to DIY home repairs to maintain their home and belongings. From patching leaky roofs to fixing broken furniture, homeowners and even renters learned to tackle household repairs themselves, saving money and preserving assets in the process. In the kitchen, cooks experimented with creative recipes and techniques to make the most of such limited ingredients. Depression-era cooking became synonymous with resourcefulness and no waste. The Great Depression was a time of immense hardship and adversity, but it brought out resilience, ingenuity, and compassion of the human spirit that we've seen through the Second World War and other times when people have really been pushed to the metal, pushed to their limits, and have come through as a community. Through frugality, common support, self-sufficiency, and creative solutions, individuals and communities found ways to survive through the great challenges of this era. These lessons from the Great Depression continue to resonate with us today as we have economic struggles. Hopefully they will serve as a reminder of the power we have if we are resourceful, persevere in times of a crisis, most of all, come closer together and work as a community. Thanks for watching today. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like more money saving, frugal living, occasional social history videos, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back again soon with another video. Whichever corner of the world you find yourself on today, we hope you have a truly blessed day. Bye for now.